习有会的话，
Now we've reached the part where Pontsuk Rinpoche had already arrived at Milhai Church and started giving teachings to the audience about the lineage of Kagyu and mainly focus on the teachings of the Kagyu. Pontsuk Rinpoche gave one single lecture, and I think we actually spent quite a few sessions to cover this particular lecture. Yesterday we had already covered the part till the basic, all the stages of practices of Milarepa. The first one is to generate renunciation, second one generate bodhicitta, and the third one is to practice Vajrayana, which is the Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. And then Pontsuk Rinpoche started to speak of the actual practice of the basic vehicle. So how can you first cultivate the mind of renunciation? You should first contemplate as follows. It is truly rare to obtain such a precious human body that it can be used for Dharma practice. Therefore, since I have attained the precious body, I must take full use of it to practice the pure Dharma. Well, you need to contemplate in such a way this pure and this precious body that we have already gained, we have already got for this lifetime will not last forever. So we have to cherish this opportunity, and we have to practice the Dharma as soon as possible. We have to seize the opportunity because it's not going to last forever. For that reason, I think that it would be quite precious for you to even make aspiration along with the whole Sangha, even for one day. It is quite important. This part talks about the, you can see this part of the teaching as the non-dual practice, and this is the contemplation of the precious human body that is hard to gain. The second one is that you have to contemplate that although I have obtained the precious human body with all freedoms and endowments, it does not last forever and is fragile and unstable. It is not going to last forever. After 100 years or so, all humans present in the world will surely die without anyone left behind. We don't even have to speak of things that's going to happen after 100 years, even after 50 years. How many of you will still be able to live in this world? For those of you who are present to listen to the Dharma teaching right now, at least you're 20 or 30 years of age, and after 30 years, the majority of you would be dead. And then I must recognize then the undeniable fact of death and exert myself in Dharma practice. My death is unavoidable. What is even worse is that I don't even know when it will come. This is another point I must bear in mind. Today is November the 3rd. Next year, by 2024, November the 3rd, how many of you will still be able to live? And I'm sure there are people who are not going to live till November the 3rd next year. We don't even have to talk about what's going to happen in a year, in a month, in a week, in a day. We don't really know what's going to happen. It could happen as death could dawn, and could happen in various ways. A car accident or death suddenly dawns in your sleep. You don't really know. All of you, all of us who are present here, none of us can guarantee that we will stay well and alive in this world until next year, and that none of us will die. We can't make that promise and guarantee. For example, every year I would make food offering to the villagers of my hometown, and it was about in June. I couldn't remember how many people would come and line up to receive the food, maybe 40 or 30, because it was just a very small village. I was jokingly saying that now that we see that these many people are lining up, but next year the numbers of people lining up would be different, and there could be the seniors and the youngsters that would pass away by next year. So death could be quite scary. It could dawn at any time. When death falls, nothing is helpful except the noble Dharma. Since the arrival of Lord of Death is unknown, so you should dedicate your time to practice. That is why you should try your very best to practice the 300,000 times of Amitabha. Every year, we should practice 400,000 times of Vajrasattva mantra, and then that is to purify our karma, and then in order to be reborn to Sukhavati, we need to chant 300,000 times of Amitabha's mantra. I would speak of that every year to all of you, and I really am speaking of this wholeheartedly because I really feel that life is very impermanent, and there are so many things that is to be done, but I really don't have time to do them, and there are so many translations that needs to be done and don't have that much time to finish them, and so many classes I need to teach, and so on and so forth, and there is just no certainty to lifespan at all. There is no time to waste. That is why we need to finish chanting the 300,000 times of the Amitabha mantra. Now think about this. Would a high social status be helpful upon death? Even a king who rules the whole world can only head alone to an unknown world after death without the power to take any assistant with him. Now, our previous Premier Li Keqiang, who passed away because of the sudden heart attack, and yesterday was his cremation. When I watched the video of his cremation, only about 100 people attended that. Well, when we think about him, he is the second of the highest authority of China that harbors 1.4 billion people. If we could take 1 or 2 people to help him on the road to death, that would be helpful, but he couldn't do that either. From this day on, even his name or whatever power he had at the time of death, he is not able to take a disciple or take any follower with him at all. In the words of my perfect teacher, he speaks of it saying that even if you have a great amount of wealth, even if you have the wealth of a whole country, even if you have great power, you cannot take even one bite of meal or even one little bit of any materialistic things to the next life. Let it be Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or any of those people would not be able to count on anyone at all at the time of death. The celebrities and people of power, when they pass away, they would have to wander without any other external help but to wander to a foreign place. Whenever I see the passing of any celebrities or any people like such, I would watch the video and silently chant Om Mani Padme Hum to them. So the worldly beings, doesn't matter what kinds of authorities that they had or wealth they had, it is of no use when it comes to death. Indeed, it is like so. We need to practice the virtuous Dharma as much as possible. Otherwise, when it comes to death, if we were to generate the thought of a practice, it is probably already too late. It should be clear that death is not the extinction of everything, like a fire being extinguished or water evaporating. Rather, both good and bad karma will accompany us to the next life. The previous two were the contemplation on the precious human life, and then the impermanence of life, and then this part is the contemplation of karma. So this is the third out of the four contemplations in the preliminary practice. It should never be thought that nothing exists after death. I will share with you a few stories from the past. There used to be a learned non-Buddhist scholar who debated with the influential Buddhist philosopher Dharmakirti his whole life, but never won. So he vowed in his next life he would become a debater, and he did. He became a debater at the age of 18 and went to debate with Dharmakirti again, but still failed. Then in the following life, he became a debater one more time at the age of 7, and later started to debate with Dharmakirti, and surprisingly failing again. Eventually, he took refuge in Buddhism, because after debating with Dharmakirti for 3 lifetimes, he couldn't win over Dharmakirti, and maybe because Dharmakirti was already getting quite aged, since this person took 2 more reincarnations to debate with them, so he took refuge in Buddhism. So in the non-Buddhist religions, many of them admit the existence of past and future lives, and there are many people who can recall their past life. For example, Nagarjuna, and then Dighanada, and Ashwagosha, and so on. For those of you who may not have faith in past and future lives, who do not acknowledge the truth of reincarnation, after years of studying Dharma and after developing faith in Dharma, started to believe in reincarnations and past and future lives. And I think it's very much related to virtuous roots as well. Without virtuous roots, even if you were to get ordained, there's not much use of it. It is very much related to your merit and to your virtuous root. For those who do not have virtuous roots or merit, even if they were to be ordained, they would end up to slander the Dharma, creating negative deeds, and so on. So it is quite important to have the virtuous roots and merit. And for those who have good virtuous roots, even if they're not ordained, and after 1 or 2 Dharma lessons, they would uptake those teachings and carry them for their whole life, which would result in success. So over here it talks about the story of these 2 debaters. And then a similar story in Buddhism. Chandra Goming was a famous Buddhist scholar born in the southern part of India. His previous life was a Buddhist Pandita who had a fierce debate with a non-Buddhist scholar. This non-Buddhist scholar denied the existence of past and future lives, but Chandra Goming in his previous life could not defeat him, and then changed his mind. As a result, this Buddhist Pandita decided to prove the existence of reincarnation through his death, saying that I will show the existence of future life. Now I'm going to die. Please preserve my dead body in the coffin with well-prepared holy medicine. He then held a pearl in his mouth and made the vow, after my reincarnation, may I master all knowledge I have learned in this life, and if you see someone who is born with a pearl in his mouth, that person is my reincarnation. After these words, this Pandita then died. Because of the vow he made, Chandragomin was reborn with a pearl in his mouth, and meanwhile the pearl preserved in the coffin was gone. Seeing this, the non-Buddhist scholars started to consider the true existence of past and future lives, and then asked Chandragomin to clarify his doubt by explaining to him the Buddhist philosophy. This was talked about in the 400 verses of Madhyamika. It is a sign of his accomplishment. Also, the power of dependent arising, which could lead to those symbols from the previous life into the next life. So this particular sign lead to the consideration of the non-Buddhist scholar on the true existence of past and future lives. And then he asked Chandragomin to clarify his doubts by explaining to him the Buddhist philosophy. In that life, Chandragomin was even more brilliant and understanding the Dharma and had no obscuration at all. So he was able to offer a perfect answer to the non-Buddhist scholar, who eventually accepted the existence of reincarnation as well as the infallible teaching of Buddhism. Consequently, he followed Chandragomin, and he himself also rose to the status of a great Pandita in Buddhism. Now I will talk about the history related to your Kagyu lineage, such as reincarnation of Karmapas. The first Karmapa was Dusung Khenpa, the second Karmapakshi. In fact, it should be Karmapa Pakshi. So in the Chinese language, it is Karma Pakshi. In the Chinese language, it's Karma Pakshi, but it should be Karmapa Pakshi. The third Ranjun Dorji. In Tibetan, it should be included as Karmapa Pakshi. Up to the present 16th Karmapa Ranjun Rigpe Dorje, the Karmapa Ranjun Rigpe Dorje, he passed away, I think, back in the 1981. Every Karmapa was clearly predicted in many texts, such as gathering of the wisdom intent, including their lifespans and information as such. There are some vague messages that's included in this particular tantra. So also the first Karmapa prophesied the parents and other details concerning the second Karmapa, and this tradition has continued with every reincarnation up to the 16th Rigpe Dorje. Back in 1993, when Ponzo Rinpoche made this visit, the 16th Karmapa had already passed away, and then the 17th Karmapa was recognized, and I think it was back in the 90s. I can't quite remember the exact dates. I believe there is even a documentary made about that search of reincarnation. After the passing of Ranjun Rigpe Dorje, there are various ways of searching for his reincarnation. The 17th Karmapa, then Janggon Khantrul Rinpoche, on the way of recognizing the reincarnation of the 17th Karmapa, had a car accident and then passed away. And then the Situ Rinpoche, who had received a casket from the 16th Karmapa, whom asked him to only open it afterwards. And then upon opening this casket, the 16th Karmapa predicted his parents of the next lifetime, his mother's name was Lomaka or something, and then I couldn't quite remember that. There's all of these are described in seeking for, looking for Shangri-La. I think lots of those are written or described in great detail. Talked about where he was and how his family was and so on. All of those descriptions were indeed quite rare and quite wondrous too. Some people probably don't believe in reincarnation and tokus and past and future lives and so on, but this is definitely the truth. Just as when Ponsu Rinpoche was giving the teaching, there's the two Karmapas. For example, the Karmapa, and both of them use various ways to benefit sentient beings. All the way from the previous Karmapas till the Karmapa now, all of this gives strong evidence of existence of past and future lives, and above is some historical information that proves the existence of reincarnation. Certainly there is a logical inference to establish this truth as well, which is expounded in many Buddhist scriptures, but I don't have time to discuss this part. I wrote a long essay on the treatise of the past and future lives, also in the ancient teachings such as the valid cognition as well as ornament of Madhyamika and so on. There are different teachings on that too. So we should stop here today.